Welcome to episode 34 of the Pitbox Podcast. We are back again with yet another show. This one, we're going to talk about the New York Auto Show. Yet again, another year, some more media passes for these guys. Unfortunately, I had to work, so I had to go on a day with the common folks. It's funny how quickly you can get spoiled to the good life. Last year, I was on my high horse. I'm like, oh, I ain't got to deal with no kids. I ain't got to wait in line, walk up to whatever. I'm
Ain't
seeing,
gonna stiff arm nobody.
yeah, ain't got to stiff on nobody, ain't got to look at the clowns, ain't got to deal with people just, doing whatever. And now was back in the trenches while you two were there on
Indeed.
media day dealing with the fruits of the labor that I planted.
Welcome back, fans of the Pitbox Podcast. Little tongue twister. Sorry, boy, just came home from the gym, so we are a little jittery. But anyways, I'm happy to be back. Got my boys here. We're gonna get this party on the road. Gartrell, how you been, man?
I've been not sleepy. I'm so tired. Oh man. Just recalling all of this stuff this past few weekends ago. It was a good time. It was a good time. I don't know. I'm in between. I'm good though, overall, but I'm just thinking about the whole auto show and kind of just like reminiscing about what it used to be and what it is now. And I don't know. It's just a little lackluster for me. But there were some definite like peak points that I'm glad we're gonna get to talk about today. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll jump right into it. Like Gartrell said, it's not quite the show it was before the pandemic, or even a little bit further beyond the pandemic. Back in the days, you used to come home with a bag full of books from like every manufacturer, and
Yes.
it's like only Toyota gives out bags, and you kind of don't really have any books. Not that you really need it, because obviously you go online and get everything, and you were just going to toss all the books at some point, anyways. Save some paper. But that was definitely the peak back in the day. But there's still some good stuff that shows up every year. And I guess we could kick it off talking about the American cars that actually were pretty interesting. There was four American cars that caught my attention this year.
Mm.
The first was the Mustang Dark Horse. Brand new body
Yes.
style for the Mustang. It looks pretty aggressive, but the thing that really drew me in was that crazy paint. Like that was probably the nicest paint that I saw at the car show, in my opinion.
Agreed. Agreed.
Because I was like, this is incredible. The color of the flake, the way it changed colors and the light, like that was elite paint right there.
Yeah. It was a good colorway. But the one thing I will say about it is while it was very nice to look at, and I probably would never get that color if I had the car. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if that makes sense to you, but like,
Why? Tell us why.
it's so out there. You know what I mean? Like, I don't even think you would see that in like an exotic like car lineup as a color, as a swatch. You know what I mean? Like it's more like the color you wrap your car after you've gotten it,
I see.
from the dealership. So while yes, to believe that was like a paint color and not like a wrap or dip or something like that was really, really cool to see. But I probably just couldn't get that, if it was my actual car. It'd be like, oh, like you would go to the showroom and be like, yeah, that's fire, but I'm gonna get black, or something like that, in my mind. But I don't know how you feel.
So just so you guys know what we're talking about, we're actually talking about the brand new Mustang Dark Horse edition. It's actually a special edition that you have to get in order to get that paint color. I kind of feel both sides. I like the color because it's like this gray that has these blue and purple and gold hues to it. Um, Kind of like Gartrell said, I don't know if it would be like my first color choice, but also kind of like what Steve said, like if I wanted to get something that's gonna set me apart without getting like a neon color, like, you know, I work for BMW, but Sao Paulo yellow comes to mind. If I didn't want to be that loud, that would probably be the route that I would take, is just go with like some crazy grayish, bluish color with some awesome flake in it. But aside from that, sitting in the actual car itself, of course, Ford actually continued to do the theme of putting factory Recaros in, which is kind of nice to see. I'm not sure if this is true for the sake of the Dark Horse edition, but the model that we happened to sit in was the automatic transmission. It would be cool to see if they actually allowed you to get that special edition in the manual option. One thing that me and Gartrell definitely noticed is sitting in the interiors. Of course, you know, the typical American car. Like I feel like I'm sitting on a lazy boy. The seat is super like soft and cushy and comfortable. I couldn't tell if it would really hold me well if I was doing any type of track day or aggressive driving. And then, of course, you know, just like almost every manufacturer, everybody's like starting to implement those super large screens. You know, I call the BMW version the Samsung Curve TV just because I feel like it has that same kind of style. I'm sure you guys can attest to that. But you know, it's nice to see that they kept the climate controls and stuff. But aside from the Ford, of course, Mustang GT, we also happened to see the E-Ray, which I thought was pretty cool. Me and Gartrell didn't get to sit in it because it was kind of like on this secluded, uh, you know, rotunda, for lack of a better term, where, or swivel, I guess you could call it, where essentially nobody could touch the car or get really close to it, but you can kind of see it from afar. It's kind of wild to think that there's an all-wheel drive, uh, you know, Corvette, and it's fully electric. Like that's kind of
But no,
almost counterculture,
hybrid.
right? Oh, it's hybrid?
Yeah. It has the
Gotcha. Okay, I'm mistaken.
yeah,
So
LT
listen,
plus the front wheels are driven electrically.
gotcha. Okay, so that's even more wild though, to consider the fact that you have the electric power pulling the car while the gasoline is pushing the car in a sense. I'm curious to see like what all the car reviewers say as to how that drivetrain actually functions in real life, or like in a track setting. And I'm also curious to find out like how does the regenerative aspect work? Like, you know, if I do a track day five sessions in, am I gonna run out of juice and I gotta plug in, you know, to access the same horsepower and get the same level of mechanical grip? I'm curious to see about that. And then Steve brought to my attention, of course, Dodge has some crazy setup with the Challenger with the chute in the back. And then they had that whole electric cat,
Charger.
you know, Charger, sorry, that they're releasing to the market. So that was kind of cool as well to see how these guys are implementing the EV aspect to kind of stay within regulations. But then at the same time, I guess to kind of tailor off my statement is, it's kind of sad to see like all the gasoline cars so slowly starting to dwindle out of the picture. And then to touch on what Steve mentioned earlier, you know, when we were kids and stuff, you would go to the car show, it'd be 3 levels, you would get brochures from every manufacturer. And it's just crazy to see how in almost, it feels like a short period of time, like how things change so drastically.
Yeah. I wanted to say something about the Dark Horse real quick though. Um, why they don't have bucket seats? What's good? What's up with that? You know what I mean? Like, your premier car or one of your limited edition cars, it should be balls to the wall. You're gonna go that crazy with the paint and then skimp out on the seats and the brakes and the brakes. It had flat steel rotors, bro. I don't know
I
if y'all
got
saw
you.
that. It had flat. Go look at it. It had flat steel rotors with Brembos. Make it make sense. That's all I had to say about that car, huh?
You might have to call a Von Gittin, you know,
Yeah.
Hit the RTR boys up, like, yo, I'm gonna need that upgrade real quick.
It's crazy. I was like, what? Like, how? Had so many questions, but I was like, you know what? This is New York Auto Show. It's not what it used to be. So I just took it I took it with a grain of salt. And then E-Ray was cool. Of course, the kids that, basically own the dealership or something got to sit in it. I remember seeing that. It was so funny. This lady
I
was
do
yelling.
remember that too.
This lady was like, "Oh, you can't go in there." And then it was like, "Oh no, they're good." And I was like,
me and Gartrell both gave the side eye, like,
I
really?
was like, "Really?" I was like, "All right, whatever." It was cool to see though. I'm curious to see. I mean, they sold out all the units, right? Already, everybody over 65 that's been dreaming of a Corvette, and also doesn't want to buy gas anymore. Real cool. C8 was the C8 was cool. We got to sit in that.
Yep.
Standard. I mean, we've seen it before. I sat in the C8 Z06, is it right?
Z06, exactly.
Last year, which was way cooler than this one because I think it was just the base model.
Yeah, it was in the Z06.
And I forget what we had to say about something on the interior for that car.
Oh, we were saying Gartrell, the curtain aspect.
Yeah, and I was like, so I don't know if you know about the car, Steve. I know you know, but like in it, you have like that whole. It's like a slide panel that has all of your like infotainment buttons and stuff that you'd have to press. I'm like, this is so not functional. Like, how am I gonna be driving down the road in this car that has almost no visibility, right? And I gotta look down to find out what button I'm about to press.
He said, "I want to raise the temperature. How do I do that?"
That's a whole accident right there. You need to have that stuff right at your eye line / level where I don't have to think too much to do something. I'm looking over, I'm like, tiny little display buttons. I'm like, what the like,
yeah.
How would you get used to? I don't know, but I didn't even really pay much attention to the other cars, and that's kind of how I felt about American Muscle this car show. And the Mustang E-Mach or whatever that thing is called, pretty cool. Mach-E. Look pretty cool. I'm not bashing Ford, but I did kind of want to ride in it. I wanted to feel what it was like for that torque. But
all right.
Lackluster is my opinion of American section this car show. You can take it away, Steve.
All right. Well, since you two told about the Mustang and the E-Ray, I guess I'll talk about the Challenger more. So it's the Demon 130. So this is, I guess, the last Challenger. Thing makes like what 1,000 horsepower on ethanol. When you
with a warranty,
yeah, with the warranty, like they did a good amount of work to the engine. Like it's not just a tune on a regular Demon engine to get that power. Obviously, like you can run ethanol or pump on it. So they did some things. And it was pretty cool seeing some of the other details actually. Like, the Demon has the wide body fenders on it.
Yeah.
To save weight. Like they only did it in the back. And then if you look in the back seat, it actually has a carbon fiber seat delete, which was pretty cool too. And then of course that the harnesses in there, the trans brake, obviously you're on the strip. And then Dodge will actually sell you a parachute as well if you want it. So
that's
like,
really cool.
Yeah, so the car at the show had the optional parachute on it. And actually this doesn't come with skinnies in the front anymore. Like the front tires are more regular size now. And yeah, this is what was it? Was it 8-second car at the strip?
I think so. Something crazy like that.
Yeah,
it's less than 10 for sure.
It was like a sub 2-second 0 to 60. Now, obviously, like on the street, you'll never be able to do that.
Nah.
Somebody's gonna do it. Somebody's gonna do it.
You can attempt to prep the Hutchinson as much as you want.
You're not. You're gonna pop open the Draggy app.
Remember, I sent you that video of that guy pulling the chute out in Long Island?
Yeah.
On the highway.
Yeah.
Highway. That's gonna be these nuts. I'm telling you right now. And then all of that to get gapped by like an M340 on E80 E85 and
E50 on the
yeah,
E50
yeah,
blend.
right, exactly.
Ah,
It's like
not
come
like
on.
this.
Look, I don't know, man. Look, that 330 or 340 gonna have to be boosted to the moon to outrun this.
Mm,
A scat pack, barbecue chicken, but this thing right
barbecue
here,
chicken.
like I don't know, man. Like I said, you're not doing a sub 2 second 0 to 60 on the street, but on a prep surface, a
It's a
challenge
wrap.
that's nutty. I mean,
That
obviously,
is.
like you're getting you can't compete with that in HRA. So
Nah. And the crazy part is that it gets those times and it's two-wheel drive.
yeah,
What?
How they selling this on the street for real though? Like somebody's got to be getting paid off crazy at the Department of Transportation or wherever to allow this Tom to be hitting roads. Like I felt like when they said that they had a car, even way back when that made 700 horsepower, I'm like, y'all selling these out the factory, bro? Like, and
You're
now
gonna need to come with some qualifications.
you have an optional shoot and nobody's reading the fine print. So they're not telling you that this shit is not street legal. Like you cannot ride around anywhere with a shoot on the back and get pulled and not get pulled over. You're gonna be like, your first excuse, well, they sold it to me from the dealer.
It came that way.
Like, first of all, a cop not gonna believe you, and if he does, he's just gonna write you up anyway. So I just can't believe that this type of stuff is just being marketed. It's like, yeah, you could get this, it's illegal, but you can have it. And then, oh, and this, but it's illegal and you can't do it on the street. And it's like, you know what I mean? Like, it's so crazy to just see where these car companies are going with the limits they're pushing. You know what I'm saying? I don't know.
It's kind of nice too, though, if you really think about it. Like Dodge said, forget everything you thought of. We're gonna give the enthusiasts like, because if you think about it, like those boys that chase that's what gets them excited. So the fact that they threw everything out the window and said we're gonna do this to a street car with a warranty, and we're gonna freaking market the crap out of it. That aspect is kind of cool. I do gotta give them that though.
When they snap their drive shafts in multitudes, I would love to see Dodger's face and say, yeah, this was a dumb idea. I'm not gonna lie, but I don't know. We'll see what happens with them. That's really crazy. We already got enough nuts on the street. We don't need any more. I'm telling you.
but speaking of high horsepower cars that you probably should have some qualifications for, in the supercar section, we had Koenigseggs, we had the Regera and the Gemera.
Yes.
The first time seeing the Gemera, that has to be like the longest door on any car, especially a coupe
For real.
ever. Like the door is like the length of the car, and the fact that you can have 1,000 horsepower plus and carry
In a three-seater.
it was four seaters, four
Oh,
seater,
four-seat. My bad.
yeah, two bucket seats in the back. That's nutty. Yeah,
That is
that's
a little
crazy.
crazy.
And then of course they had the Ramat that has like what 2,000 horsepower, 1,800 horsepower, something crazy like that. And it's electric, and it's like, yeah, where's the special licenses at? Nowhere to be found. Oh, you hit the lotto? I'll take one.
Honestly, that thing needs some medical permission because I feel like not everybody's internals can handle the G forces that thing can pull.
Yeah.
My favorite thing about that car,
Which one?
the Koenigsegg, is I pointed this out to Chris. The mirrors, the side view mirrors are cameras, and you have two separate displays on the interior. I'm trying to think about maybe Steve, you could probably just pop it right out. But what other car does that? Because I know there's another high-end vehicle that has those side view. It's a Ferrari, is it not?
Valkyrie.
The Valkyrie. The Valkyrie, which is another balls to the wall
Seriously.
car.
The point is when you have to be so aerodynamic, they eliminate the mirrors and give you cameras. That's when you know you're on a different level.
Yeah, I think it's also just very elegant. It's a very cool feature. I think we'll probably see that in some more regular production cars in the near future. And I think I hope so, honestly. I think, some of these people just don't even check their mirrors. I think maybe having a screen is something they need. So, wink, wink, BMW drivers.
That's
But
hilarious.
yeah.
Don't
Low
check.
key,
So,
Honda actually had that, but only on the passenger window. And they actually, because when I used to work for them, they actually got rid of the camera because people got distracted by it. So it's like with these pedestrians, man, you just can't win. You can't
yeah.
win. If you give them the camera, they look at the camera only. They forget that they got to look at the road. You don't give them the camera, they forget they got to look to see if there's somebody there when they change your lanes. It's crazy. You gotta be on like 1,000 when you're driving nowadays.
Yeah. I found it interesting. On another note, I found it interesting that they had the Lotus in that section as well. I understand why, but like at the same time, for people who are car enthusiasts, we know that car has no chance against almost anything that was sitting around it in terms of horsepower, performance, amenities, things like that. So I was just curious to see it there. It was like, huh, you put in a sub $100,000 car in the exotic section. I guess to the untrained eye, yeah, but for everyone who knows, it's kind of like, what you doing here? You don't belong. You don't belong in this realm, man. But but I will say it was very cool to see the car in person because I know that we had talks of it, and I was like, oh, like playing around with the idea of maybe I could try and get one, but you know, it was cool to see. I wish that was a car I would have actually liked to have sat in, especially because I would have loved to see if they had the manual version there and like the mechanics that you can see inside the car. Um, Maybe just how the shifter felt. I don't know, and just the creature comforts because it's like their new flagship car, right? Like they're away with the old ways. Here's the new brand, the new car. We're reinventing Lotus. So I would have liked to have seen that for sure.
I
But
did think that the Lotus was actually kind of cool. And I get the fact that it was kind of in an area where it was outside of its price bracket, so to speak.
yeah,
But at
yeah,
the same time, just the fact that the aesthetics can like hold up to that level of exotic is also, also kind of has its cool aspects too. Plus, kind of like what you just said, Gartrell, you know, to the untrained eye and like the regular person when they see one of those on the street, since they're so uncommon, it is an exotic for them, you know what I mean? But to kind of mention one of the cars that we haven't talked about yet, uh I thought this was pretty cool, and me and you made a little joke about this. I forget the name exactly, Steve, but what's the name of the off-road Lamborghini Huracan? What's it
still
called?
auto. Yeah,
Right. So me and Gartrell were joking around saying that that's the type of Huracan that you have to get to be able to survive New York City streets
that's fact.
with
No,
all the
no,
potholes.
that's absolutely facts. Like, first of all, if you don't have a lift kit on a car that is basically 2 inches off the ground, it's clipped for
What are
you.
we doing?
So if
Hmm.
you're going monster truck height off the rip and wheels that will survive any pothole NYC could
Right.
throw it through, I mean, that's your Lambo, right?
That's two thumbs
Like,
up.
it's like a Hummer times a Lamborghini. Really, that's what I see when I look at that car. It's pretty cool though. I'm not gonna lie. I would if I was just like had unlimited funds and I was like, yeah, sure, I would do it.
Yeah,
Right. And I had to go to the city for work.
Yeah, I'd be wilding in the city if I had that thing. What? No way.
Downshifts everywhere.
and
Sorry, Steve.
perfect one to park on the grass with cars and coffee.
Yeah,
Seriously,
exactly.
I didn't even think about that. Yeah,
Caffeine and carbs.
Perfect.
literally all season, an all season Lamborghini. That's not a Urus. Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Yeah. And to add to your point about the Lotus, so it's in that section because Manhattan Motor Cars, like the whole
Yeah, yeah, makes sense.
yeah. So like they're not gonna go put one of their other cars somewhere else. Just one stop shop, baller central right here. Uh,
I wouldn't have even brought that though. They got like a Senna in the window. You couldn't have brought that. Come on, man. Come on.
it's
So
not
we'll
really
leave that on
called.
window display to get the bait.
Crazy.
Anytime units.
That would have been a treat, though. Bring a Senna into the car show. Like, I mean, you saw one in the Lego store, right? Was it or something like that? Or I
I
forget
saw one
what in the
Microsoft
store.
store in the city.
So
Yep,
I
they
guess
had
you
it as a
can't say,
simulator.
yeah, it's not as special, I guess, in that aspect if you've been there. But like, come on, Lotus, McLaren, it's no contest. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. Whatever.
That's the only one that wasn't reserved, man. What are we gonna do?
Yeah, I like the way the Camaro looks though. I kind of want one. I don't know if I would want green, yellow, or blue.
I had spec one and I did British Racing Green with the black top, yellow calipers,
Mm,
and it looked
that's nice.
pretty solid. And it was like a black pack or something, a black trim pack. I forget what it was, but it's like a black roof and stuff like that. I would have loved to see more carbon fiber on that car, but
I don't
hey,
think
Right.
there's any carbon on there.
none.
Nah, no. On that floor, though, some other cars that we saw that weren't necessarily crazy exotics. We got to see the manual Supra, which is kind of cool, even though the price of that car, like realistically, is a little ridiculous, especially with, you know, what you're actually going to pay for it because of the fact that you can't get it. Um, we got to see an IS 500 fully gutted with a roll cage in the back. Thing had some Advan GT wheels on it and like some nice exhaust setup with some carbon fiber bits. That was pretty cool that Lexus actually had that on their at their booth. Um,
You're missing one car that was beating every single car you just said, though.
Tell us.
The Volkswagen ID.
Yes. That thing was so like
that
it
thing
was like
was
cool,
so
like in the
cool.
craziest way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Tell
love
him,
that
tell him.
car. I was just like, so it was like a kid in a candy store situation. Me and Chris had gotten it. We were like, whoa. Why
It was
do
a
we love
bunch of ooh ahs.
why do we love exactly? It was like I felt like a minion. Somebody was pressing that button. I was like,
Oh.
I was like, it was, but I genuinely love that car. I was like, I have space, creature comforts. I could change the mood with the lighting and all this. Things are removable. Like you can remove the center console. This, but
Yes.
it was just like so intuitively good. Like it was just like
the thing had drop down tables on the freaking seats like it was an airplane.
Yeah.
And then me and Gartrell went to the back and homeboy popped the trunk and pressed this button and the freaking tow hitch pops out the bottom. Like,
you could tow with that
this
car.
shit got a quick release tow hook.
Yeah, that's a cult car
crazy.
right there. Yeah, I really love that car. It was. I think the look of it is great. I think the custom is. I'm sure that's not even fully optioned. I felt like that was like the base model too. So like, you could probably get some other things with that. But it's just like everything you need, right? Like you could. It's a true camper, really.
Yeah.
And I love the
revival, that thing for sure.
The revival of that, yeah, the revival of that classic. It's just like timeless. I think, yeah, amazing. But that was like one of my favorite cars on the floor, aside from.
True, I actually almost forgot about that one. I'm glad you brought it up.
Yeah.
So aside from the the IS 500, we got to see BMW's, their new tank that they released, the 700 horsepower XM. I think it's the heaviest truck, period, on the market, which is actually also kind of wild. Unfortunately, BMW, Porsche, Audi, and Mercedes didn't have their own dedicated booth. They kind of like had their own little sections, like caddy cornered off to the side with like a few cars on display. It would have been nice to see those manufacturers participate again, but that would be kind of circling back to our initial point, which was, the car shows have slowly dwindled with the amount of manufacturers that are actually like applying effort, I feel like, to it. Besides that, the last cool thing that we did on the main floor was me and Gartrell got to race on the simulators in the Hyundai Veloster N area. That was also kind of cool. We got to interact with those, kind of see how the front wheel drive cars handle on Lime Rock, which I'm sure many of our viewers are familiar with. But aside from that, there's nothing really else that I can think of off the top of my head for the main floor. What about you guys?
Oh,
You
but
forgot.
R34.
Yeah,
Midnight.
Oh,
yeah,
yeah, I was waiting for somebody. I can't get
Nissan.
it all.
Yeah. The car was cool. I like the color of the new R35. But it's more the same, unfortunately. Like, you know what I mean? Like, unfortunately, Nissan is one of those manufacturers where they have like their one car and they're just gonna kind of like they're gonna milk it
If it
until
ain't broke, don't fix it.
yeah. Honestly, like, I was really hoping, um, way back when they were releasing the GTR that it was gonna be like a full revamp, like a brand new from the bottom up car and release like a 36 when I heard rumors that they were making something new. But they just basically repackaged the same thing and pumped it out again, and it's gonna sell units because it is what it is. It's an iconic
You
car.
could call it the R35.5.
Yeah, I just hope they retire it soon because it really does. It's 2009. It's what? How many years later? Right? Like, come on.
Don't retire it, Nissan. Come out with another one. That's what
Right?
Gartrell
No,
needs.
yeah, that's exactly what I mean. Exactly. And so I don't know. It was cool to see. It was really cool to see the 34 there, and also the Nismo version of the 35. Right. But nothing much to say there. We didn't really get to interact with the Nismo. There was like some YouTuber doing something. I don't remember what it was.
Yeah.
We did sit in the 35. Same feeling. I've rode in one before, so it's kind of the same for me. Chris, definitely share your thoughts, and then maybe we could talk about the 400Z, which is probably like the newest thing they really got there, right?
That last year.
Yeah, but you didn't get to go in. You didn't get to sit in it this last year, though. This year, you did.
Yeah,
I did not. I did not.
Okay.
I don't know.
So
Did you?
basically, me and Steve, real quick, we're talking earlier about the fact that Nissan actually brought an R34. I was kind of telling Steve that I thought that was actually super cool, like the fact that they understand the importance of that car to that specific sub brand under Nissan's umbrella. To answer your question, Gartrell, I actually did get to sit in the Z the prior year, but it was like an automatic with this weird blue interior. Wasn't really the biggest fan. Um, once again, I kind of find myself saying this pretty frequently, unfortunately, but like I'm happy that they still brought out the Z, but I wish they would have paid a little bit more attention to it as far as making the cabin a little bit more ergonomic. I'm glad that they still have the manual in there. Um, I wish they would have maybe gave it a little bit more of a spice on the outside as far as the exterior aesthetics, made it a little bit more aggressive. I feel like it's a little bit more on the plain Jane side, more reserved. Um, but it's still nice, like I mentioned, to see a twin turbocharged 6-cylinder manual rear wheel drive car still available to the public. Because if we really think about it, there's not that many options like that left on the market, besides like the BMW ones and the Supra now, but the Supra is very expensive. And unless you pivot to like the sub $40,000 range and slightly less horsepower, then you have a little bit more options, but you really don't have that many choices. Steve, what was your favorite part about like the Nissan section, real quick?
I actually thought like the setup of the booth itself for the GTRs was pretty cool.
Yeah, garage setting. Yeah.
Yeah, because like besides Nissan, like Subaru was like the only ones that had a rather unique setup to
Like
how
the whole outdoor landscape.
yeah to how the booth itself looked. Um, it's funny because even though like R34s is R34, like we've been seeing them for years here.
Yeah.
As of today, May 3rd, 2023, when we're recording, like they're legal now. At least the first year of them, it is legal. But like seeing them on the street for at least like 4 years consistently.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, some
We've seen
people
it for a while.
get them over. I would say I to comment on Nissan further, just thinking about the 400Z. I'm honestly just so disappointed with that car. The more I think about it, like you went
You had high
from,
expectations.
yeah, I think for design especially more so than anything. I think the feel of the car is there in terms of like when I sat in it, I feel like I'm in my 350 for the first time again. How tight
Yeah,
it is, how low visibility. You feel like you're in like a sportier car than maybe it is, or maybe you feel it is a very
space
sporty
coupe.
car. Right. Like I think that it's definitely a good feel in the interior. But I do think that overall they've marketed it to a subset of people, and it's really people. I want to say honestly, like in their 40s and up. And the reason I say this is because they've just gone so far back in terms of design in my mind with like a slight modern twist that it kind of appeals to those people who were our age when the Z was in its like 200s phase, and they'll probably be a little bit older than that actually, really, but and want something new that gives them like that nostalgic feeling, right? I don't think they're marketing to the younger generations who may have some money to spend, and it's but definitely a pretty penny because well over $50,000 now, if I'm correct, right? Especially with the markups they're doing now. So it's like, I don't know. I felt they kind of dropped the ball. I was expecting something turbo, right? Just because that's the way the world is moving now. We don't do all motor anything anymore,
It is
really.
turbo. It is turbo. It is
No, I
turbo.
know it is. I'm saying, yeah, I'm saying like I was expecting a turbo, great,
Oh, gotcha. Right.
right? But like I was expecting maybe not as much power, maybe, you know, definitely more aggressive looks, more newer generation styling, right? And a modest price point, really, right? Kind of similar to what almost to what what was expecting for like the GR Corolla and stuff like that, right? Where the styling
Mm.
looks great. The price obviously is a little crazy for those right now, but like aside from that, they hit the mark, I think, when it came to like what people expected. And I feel as though the Nissan did not, so I don't know.
And then I guess once you take that into account, just to kind of wrap that up nicely, I feel like a lot of the manufacturers are actually forgetting that how a car looks from the outside really does matter, especially for like the enthusiast grade cars. Because I mean, I could just bring up one statement and it proves it all. Like, you fell in love with the car when you get out of it, you walk away and you look back at it. If I look back at my car, to keep it politically correct, because I was gonna say something else. If I go to look back at my thing, right, and the looks just aren't cutting it, I'm gonna feel some type of way. Even if when I drive it, it drives amazing. Just because that adds to the whole owner experience, right? Like people like to take nowadays, people like to take pictures and videos of their car. So now, like, if a car is not photogenic, then it actually matters, and like people will not gravitate towards it. I could start going on a tangent mentioning all the different examples that actually prove that statement correct and has guided people from not purchasing that certain car.
Yeah.
But to kind of move it forward, right? Like the next cool thing that we saw was on the bottom floor, which was the underground floor. Walking down immediately on the left hand side, we're greeted with like the enthusiast goodness. You could just feel the energy screaming at me and Gartrell. And then on this right section towards like the back area, there was a few different EV manufacturers. I believe it was Hyundai, Chevy, BMW, and maybe Ford, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I think it was Ford. All giving test drives to potential future customers and individuals at the auto show. Me and Gartrell actually got to ride around in the i4, which was cool. But I would probably say that the highlight of the entire auto show was the R2 Expo, which was shout out to the homies over at Crown Speed Lab. Um, Shout out to Jay with the Subaru STI Varus kit, full livery going. My guy was representing. They had the S2000 there that we've come and grown to love, even though not much has changed. It's just been incremental improvements to that car. We got to see some cars with like, what is it? The Supra, the Mark IV Supra, and the S15 with the top secret liveries. Those were super sick. And then we got to see like all the local boys, like, you know, we had that whole section of the DC2 all the way to the FK8, and even like the Euro R that Chris drives, and we got Ken's new freaking FL5 that was sick. We got the other Chris's EK4 that he has fully track spec gutted, grid life special I like to call it. So it was nice getting to see like the local like enthusiast group representing us in something that, I think that each one of us can say we grew up like almost idolizing the car show, because before we got old enough to go to meets and events and stuff like that, like the thing that you would look forward to if you loved cars was the auto show once a year. Like that's what everybody would get super excited about, because for us, like, we didn't have cars rolling around that we could go to meets and things like that. So, our parents would essentially bring us there. And that's why it was so important, I would say, to like our generation growing up.
If you are a JDM fan, that was a huge treat. Let's be real. That's
Yeah.
what really grails the Supras right there. Now, I was trying to get confirmation if that was Smokey's actual car or if it was just one of the other two that have the GT300 body kit on it. But that's something I never thought I'd see in person. And no, it didn't have the V12 in it. It had the four banger in it. I'm pretty sure it's a turbo beams, but that's fine. The actual GT500 Supras from that era had the four cylinders. They didn't have 2Js.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, yeah, they didn't actually use 2Js in Super GT. But yeah, like I never thought I would see that car in person. It is so wide, like it's such a imposing body kit. And it's funny because there was like four other Mark IV Supras that were
Yep.
there, and to see how much wider this was than the standard body car was just absolutely ridiculous. And in all its retro goodness with the old school Volks on there,
Yes.
the yellow Recaros, like, man, this thing was amazing. And then
As the enthusiast would say, period, correct.
yeah, it was pretty correct. And of course, you had the Signal Auto R34 next to it, top secret drift spec S15. Someone had a June Auto livery EK9.
Yes.
It was also, besides all of the Hondas and Supras that were there, a few 86s, so 86 Corolla, Datsun 510. Like, yeah, there was some real nice stuff there. But I mean, for me, it was all about that Supra.
True.
Oh yeah.
Gartrell, what was your highlight for downstairs, my guy? We saw an MC20. That was kind of cool.
Yeah.
Oh, and that 993 that was LS swapped. That was kind of wild.
Took the words right out of my mouth. That was my highlight. Yeah, no, that was it for me. I was very surprised to see a small block V8 in the back of a Porsche. That was pretty crazy for me. I like that stuff for sure. I loved all the JDM. There was definitely some heat there. I love the transition through the years in terms of the Type R slash Integras. It's cool to see a Countach down there. And it's very interesting to see a non-speciality 458 with the speciality strips. If I had to say.
Gartrell had to get real close to that one because he was
I
like,
was looking, I was like, wait,
he's like,
something's
Chris,
wrong
is
here.
this?
I was like, no, this is not
I'm
a
like,
speciality. I was like, someone just went and got the stripes on this thing. I was like, all right. I guess we're doing that now, but all right. Um, but yeah, like I enjoyed the downstairs part for sure. I felt a little underwhelmed only in the fact that like, you know, it's stuff we've seen before, but I do appreciate everyone's build down there because I know that they put so much into it and they had some real like fire like specs in terms of just like the bits that they've added to their cars, whether it was the wheels or the seats or some small details, body kits, things like that. Um, especially body kits that you don't really see on the street or street cars was really cool to see for sure. And I
Yeah,
really hope.
the
Hmm?
just to say real quick, the New York City JDM community came and represented in full flex. It was sweet.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So I'll throw in one last card before we shut it down. If you
Bless
are
you.
a Rally fan, you had a Lancia Stratos there. First time seeing one of those in person. I knew it was small. I didn't realize it was that small. But rally royalty right there. It was pretty cool seeing one of those up close. But yeah, like that was the auto show for this year, 2023. Uh, hopefully we'll have media passes again next year, and hopefully I'll be able to get off of work so I can actually go on media day and not have to wait in lines to look at cars and deal with the children, which is fine. I understand. I was one of those kids at one point,
We
but
welcome the kids.
yeah, bring the kids, keep the passion going. Just don't let your kids.
Right.
That's all I ask.
And don't let them stand on people's front splitters.
Yeah, you
That
can't.
was crazy.
Yeah, like what?
Yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah, but thanks for watching. That's another episode. We'll be back again with some more guests. Hopefully, on the next show or two, we have some things moving forward we think you'll like. Stay tuned for more. This is the Pit Box Podcast. We'll talk to you guys later.
Take care, everybody.